Chers auditeurs,
Dear listeners,
bonjour.
welcome in Comdarchi Podcast Season 3
Saison 3, dans le monde fascinant des architectes.
and in the architectural projects.
Je suis Anne-Charlotte Deponte, passionnée d'architecture et docteur des universités en histoire de l'archi.
I am one of the spokespersons of Anne-Charlotte, who is a PhD in architecture history.
Merci
Thank you
d'être avec moi aujourd'hui.
to be with us today.
Et
And
maintenant,
now,
lundi en français, place au talent.
and Wednesday, let's talk projects. In English, of course.
Bienvenue dans comdarchi.
Dear listeners, good morning. This is Esther on behalf of Anne-Charlotte. It's good to meet you again in Season 3 of Comdarchi, episode 53, with the formulation work by Chloé Coffre and Clément Besnault about their project TENEMENT, located in Auneuil, France. A special mention of Europan 16. Let us begin with a few questions, then the project. 1. How did you form the team for the competition? We met at the School of Architecture of Paris-La Villette. We continued to work together thereafter, first on competitions for ideas, and then on professional projects with the creation of Atelier, Besnault et Coffre. 2. How do you define the main issue of the project, and how did you answer on this session's main topic, living cities? The limitation of urban sprawl and the decentralization are contemporary problems. We wanted to offer a reflection based on two axes. The activation of new centralities in connection with the national plan Petite Ville de Demain, build with the existing urban fabric without sprawling. Our response is based on an analysis of the existing territory in order to propose a project to repair the city of Auneuil while highlighting its strengths. Our method is based on an analysis of the urban fabric and the typology of the different occupied spaces. How can we make these different spaces resonate? 3. How did the issues on metabolic and inclusive vitalities and the questions raised by the site mutation meet? The city of Auneuil is a good representation of the current issues related to urban sprawl in peri-urban areas. It has sufficient services for its inhabitants to live there. It centralizes nearby towns around these facilities and activities. However, the ubiquity of the car and the lack of public space make Auneuil a dormitory town. The fragmentation of the plot plan and the abandonment of its agricultural and industrial heritage make it a perfect example of a city to activate. 4. Have you treated this issue previously? What were the reference projects that inspired yours? The objective of zero artificialization is now targeted by public planners. However, land pressure and the fragmentation of the plot plan make the realization of urban projects more complex. From our point of view, the multiplication of small owners constitutes an opportunity to bring each citizen to take part in urban planning. At our level, we look at working with small owners to make them actors in building the city of tomorrow. These actions can take the form of renovations, extensions of individual houses, or construction of small collective houses in urban areas. 5. Urban architectural projects like the ones in Europan can only be implemented together with the actors through a negotiated process and in time. How did you consider this issue in your project? The project enables the identification of different types of spaces on a plot scale in order to provide city-wide solutions. The proposed interventions are independent of each other and can be carried out over different time periods and with different actors. The project presents proposals tailored to the city of Auneuil, but this method of analysis could be adapted and enriched for different cities to activate. 6. Is it the first time you have been awarded a prize at Europan? How could this help you in your professional career? This is the first time that we have received a Europan award. This is an opportunity for us to develop new collaborations and to discuss concrete urban issues, current and future. Now, let's talk about the project. Reality world is limited. Imaginary world has no boundaries. Jean-Jacques Rousseau. The city of Auneuil is developing on the outskirts of the city of Beauvais. It is located in a defined geographical landscape with earth relief, vegetation, and cultures typical of the Bray region. The city has an ideal environment to attract residents looking for a living environment close to nature. Yet, the territorial organization of Auneuil is reminiscent of the peri-urban towns of the Parisian suburbs. A look at the territory reveals the patchwork development, alternation of economic activities and housing areas in recent decades. This urbanization focused on motorized vehicles creates problems on several points. There are no pedestrian places, parking areas and roads replace public spaces. New constructions are built along cul-de-sac roads specific to suburban housing and do not create continuities with the territory. New constructions are developed on agricultural or natural lands and accentuate urban sprawl. This urbanization contrasts with the progressive urbanization that has historically taken place along the streets of the city center, where vernacular forms of urbanization remain. Typologies of master houses, small and medium-sized farms built mainly in brick, bear witness to a former territorial anchorage. But how to reverse the trend and organize coherent urban development? This reflection involves the analysis of the existing parcel division in order to identify its weak points and make them its strong points. Any territory is divided into spaces belonging to different owners. These spaces are materialized by limits which are physical or administrative. This division is a support for the exploitation of spaces by humans. It reflects the past evolutions of the territory, but also makes it possible to project oneself in the future development of the city. Our methodology consists in identifying the uses of each of these plots. The resulting mosaic reveals the division of the territory by typology. It highlights the tensions between spaces, open and built, and possible developments. In order to offer sustainable alternative development, our reflection must overcome these limits and establish new ones. This mosaic allows us to identify land units made up of several plots that are likely to evolve. From our point of view, this development must go through dialogue and consultation with their owners. This is not about expropriation. Public bodies need to plan citywide projects, while giving landowners the opportunity to participate in city development. The owners are actors and remain owners of their plot. This development can take place, for example, through the constitution of AFU, Association Foncière Urbaine, or other legal entity. We will present here 3 development strategies on 3 types of land units identified in Auneuil. In the longer term, the proposed methodology could become an urban planning tool and be enriched by the analysis of other typologies of cities. 1. Reactivate the built and landscaped heritage. The former Boulanger Ceramics Factory is a remarkable building complex. It symbolizes the industrial past of the city. The site has large areas to exploit and enjoys an ideal location for establishing an attractive program. We offer a mixed program between economy and leisure that is beneficial both for the living environment of the inhabitants and for the economy of the city. The clay soils of the region have allowed its industrial development through the manufacture of tiles, bricks, ceramics, and other materials resulting from the transformation of this land. Today, the deindustrialization of the country makes the return of this type of activity obsolete. Although the territory is still favorable and the factory building, closed in 1993, still exists. However, the return to local economic activities has become an important issue in today's society. Nothing is lost, nothing is created, everything is transformed. Antoine Lavoisier. To keep, the plus. Existing buildings constructed of sustainable materials, bricks, tiles, wood. Local businesses, sawmill, tileworks, brickyard, etc. Farms. To transform, the minus. Contemporary construction in less durable materials. Loss of activities of local businesses and farmers linked to relocation of economic activities. Large unused spaces. Residual spaces in the city, especially among small owners. Goals. Densify the city with housing and equipment. Energize the city with an innovative program. Reintroduce a local activity to shine across the territory. Reintroduce a local activity to revitalize local businesses. The transformation and the project. Creation of La Recyclerie d'Auneuil. The Auneuil Recycling Center, a resource and materials recycling center. This project makes it possible to respond to different problems of the city and over different temporalities. The place could be dedicated to a more local activity at first. The demolition of buildings in the city or on the Boulanger site will be an opportunity to recover the first materials that can be recycled and used in new building projects for the plant site and then for the whole city. The inhabitants will be able to fully benefit from the place by depositing their demolition materials on a smaller scale and by purchasing construction materials from recycling via the direct sales store. Secondly, on a larger scale, the recycling center will open its doors to local businesses. Today, the treatment of construction waste is highly regulated and is becoming a real topic for companies. The objective is to allow local businesses to deposit construction material waste that can be recycled. The establishment of economic advantages or the repurchase of recycled materials at reduced prices could make it possible to sensitize companies to a local treatment of waste and to develop the activity of the recycling center. Local farmers will also be able to take part in this recycling with the creation of insulation or other materials based on wool or vegetable waste. In return, farmers can, for example, benefit from the direct sales store to sell their farm products. In order to allow the inhabitants of the city and the territory to rediscover this heritage, leisure activities will be developed in the spaces adjoining the recycling center. The spaces available make it possible to set up a vast sports complex on a promontory of the surrounding landscape that can benefit neighboring towns. An office space in connection with the factory is planned to accommodate a communication space on the recycling project, a research laboratory on the recycling of construction materials and co-working spaces. Near these offices, a restaurant area that can develop partnerships with local farmers and the direct sales store. 2. Invest the hearts of islets. The analysis of the territory made it possible to identify spaces at the heart of large blocks which benefit from a significant densification potential. This is the opportunity to work in existing open spaces and to mix programs to limit the creation of single-use spaces. The reorganization of the block also allows the multiplication of green spaces which can benefit any type of program and are no longer residual spaces. In order to allow the development of mixed blocks by limiting the fragmentation of land, we encourage the use of legal arrangements such as urban land associations, AFU in French, which facilitate the regrouping between small owners and municipalities. This allows the municipality to control the land while carrying out projects in consultation with the inhabitants and landowners. The planification of the city block goes with the creation of a network of cities roads, particularly on the east-west axis, which is little developed today. It is also an opportunity to create a green network over the city and to promote pathways connecting the different districts of the city. The agricultural landscape is highlighted and given to the inhabitants to see via a network of pedestrian paths crossing the city. 3. Develop land tenure with the inhabitants. The fragmentation of the territory goes with the multiplication of the owners of plots. According to the analysis of the territory, the surface of the free spaces of the detached housing of the 20th century represents 10% of the free spaces of the city. By way of comparison, roads represent 12%. A large part of the land available for densification belongs to small owners. We proposed the implementation of principles of densification at the individual level to initiate a defragmentation of lands and reveal the land available with these small owners. Landowners wishing to build outbuildings or create housing for rent on part of their land can carry out their project by being advised and supervised by the municipality. The municipality is responsible for providing a framework for its developments and can, for example, propose the unification of several adjoining projects forming a small development zone. It is also responsible for communicating with the owners on the legal tools available, such as the AFU, which allow the development of joint projects without forcing any division or regrouping of plots in co-ownership. The municipality can develop the creation of small typologies of housing, which are lacking in the territory, while avoiding large-scale construction and urban sprawl. In order to make the population aware of these approaches, economic advantages can also be offered by the municipality, taxation or subsidies, for example. Dear listener, thank you for tuning in. Let's meet again next week for a new comdarchi in English. And until then, take care of yourselves. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening. Thanks to Julien Rebours, sound engineer, who is collaborating with us today. Don't forget to tune in to our previews on Instagram at comdarchipo podcast. If you enjoy this podcast, don't hesitate to promote it by giving it 5 stars and a little comment on Apple Podcast or on your favorite podcast platform. And above all, subscribe to listen to all of our episodes for free. See you soon, and until then, take care of yourself.